This renovation, like all others presented on our channel, is supervised by the Austrian Institute for Building Insulation.
One of our most recent basement waterproofing projects took place in Vienna's 16th district at Heimerlegasse 5 and involved a completely waterlogged garage where attempts had been made to solve the moisture problem with the aid of drainage pumps. However, this did not achieve the desired result of drying out the masonry structures and also incurred additional costs. One of the property management companies in Vienna informed us about the problem and recommended our waterproofing method to the board of the homeowners association that owns the underground car park. In this context, we participated in a tender for the drainage of the building and the waterproofing of the masonry walls. As a result, our offer was selected because it included complete surface waterproofing and the longest guarantee of 10 years for dry walls, floors and ceilings. In practice, the method we propose naturally ensures longer-term protection against moisture, as NCT waterproof plasters crystallise the water pressing on the walls, even under high pressure. Apart from these advantages, our offer also proved financially attractive to the investors. It should be mentioned here that competing companies offered more or less the same repair and sealing methods, namely chemical injections, partial exposure of the saturated walls and floors, and subsequent concreting of the object from the inside with groundwater 8 cm thick. The maximum guarantee offered to the investor by competing companies was 5 years. Let us now turn to the details of the problem. The garage ceiling was supported by columns embedded in the walls, behind which the first contractor had applied a vertical concrete layer only 5 cm thick. Such thin concrete not only provides insufficient waterproofing, but is also too weak in terms of strength. This was evidenced by numerous cracks around the columns that supported the ceiling and carried the walls. For this reason, shortly after the building was commissioned by the contractor, water began to leak from the joints between the columns and the wall and ceiling, as well as between the floors and walls. Simply put, there were intense leaks around the ceiling and floor. The problem was exacerbated by the inadequate securing of the joints between the concrete slabs and the ceiling. Water also leaked between them. In short, the room began to turn into an aquarium. The repairs that the building manager had previously carried out were only temporary in nature. The walls were covered with plasterboard drywall panels, behind which drainage pumps were installed. Additional drainage shafts in the form of recesses in the floor covering were installed on the floors to divert water away from the walls. In other words, the consequences were combated without completely eliminating the causes. This situation persisted for years. As the already complicated hydrological situation of the soil had deteriorated further after the last floods in Vienna, the pumps were unable to drain the excess water from the garage. In addition, they eventually broke down due to overload. It was at this point that the building's management decided to solve the moisture problem that had existed for years once and for all. We began the work in the garage by slitting the floors along the walls and simultaneously cutting into them to gain access to their structure from below and fill the resulting cavities with NCT CM and NCT crystal mineral mortars. Their function is to connect the joints between the walls and the floor covering with a monolithic joint that acts as active insulation, as it continuously converts the water penetrating from below into crystals. As a result, all surfaces that come into contact with such a joint petrify and become completely impermeable to water. In addition, we have made the grooves deeper than the floor slab, which protects this critical area even better. We also had to seal the leaks in the lift shafts and clear the drain grates and garage niches, where numerous cracks had formed, allowing water to penetrate into the interior and apply new waterproofing. We also applied a single, comprehensive layer of the same mortar to all walls. Due to the horizontal effect on the interior of the walls covered by this layer, the same petrification process also takes place inside them. We also applied NCT waterproofing material to the columns supporting the heavy ceiling, which significantly reinforced them and thus improved the statics of the entire garage structure. We have already mentioned the poorly secured connections between the concrete slabs in the ceiling. We tackled these as well. This time, however, not from the inside, i.e. from the inside of the garage, but from the outside. This was a laborious task that required precision, as we had to examine every part of the ceiling closely and apply deep waterproofing with NCT CEM and NCT crystal to the leaky areas. However, we completed all of the above waterproofing work within 2 weeks, which is a very good result considering the extent of the water damage found on site and the ongoing use of the garage. At the moment you are watching this film, the garage in question is finally dry and insulated. There is no longer any need for energy-intensive pumps inside. Finally, the investor was also able to remove the soggy and unsightly plasterboard from the walls. We have thus completely eliminated the pressure of water on this improperly insulated interior. The cost of waterproofing and structural improvement amounted to €28,000. Choosing a different method would certainly have led to these costs doubling or tripling within a few to several years, without any certainty that the water would have been permanently removed from the building. Thank you for watching this film.